if you're wasting time talking to the wrong person, the person who can't make the decision and potentially doesn't have influence on that decision, then really you're just wasting time that could be used adding value to the right people. So some of the questions you can ask from the very beginning is, what does your decision-making process look like? Who else is involved in the decision-making here at your company? What is the overall strategy that your team employs when making decisions like this? How can I ensure that everyone's looped in? How can I make sure that everyone's questions are answered? And what value can I bring to the other members of your team who may be involved in this decision? When you start with those questions and not doing it in a way that's dismissing the person you're talking to, but really doing it in a genuinely curious way to figure out the sales process and the decision-making process on their end, all of a sudden now you'll figure things out about that prospect that you had no idea from the very beginning. You'll figure out that they may not have the decision-making power. You'll figure out that their boss is the one that ultimately signs off on the deal, and if he or she is not bought in, it doesn't matter what this person says, the deal's not getting done. Or you may find out that the end user, maybe the secretary or the day-to-day user of your product, is really the one that pulls a lot of weight in terms of that decision, and that's the person that you need to focus on and get buy-in from. When we look at the decision makers in a deal or with your prospect, you'll see that you have your gatekeepers. These are generally the people who try and keep distance between you and the ultimate decision maker. We have influencers and users, so influencers being those that may have influence on the decision but ultimately aren't the ones that are signing off on the deal. And the users are the people that are ultimately using your product or service, and they obviously need to be bought in to make sure that the implementation and usage and engagement is there. And then you finally have the decision maker, and actually last but not least, on top of that, you have the financial staff. So even sometimes where you'll get the decision maker saying, yes, we want to move ahead with this deal, then you fall into procurement and the financial side, who may be doing their due diligence to make sure the deal makes sense for their company. Now, a lot of us focus on one specific area, maybe just the decision maker. And what we fail to realize is there's all these other influencers around them that really help to make that decision. Even if you're talking to the CEO of a company and they're the ultimate decision maker, you need to understand that if they make a decision that's contrary to their influencers or their staff or their financial team's advice, all of a sudden that puts them in a difficult situation. It creates conflict in their organization. So even if you have that ultimate decision maker's buy-in, make sure that you're doing your work to ensure that everyone else in that company is bought in as well, or at least the people who are influencing that decision. And when you do that, now all of a sudden you reduce the friction on that decision, you reduce the friction on implementation once that decision's been made, and all parties are pulling in the same direction.